here to give us another lecture. This is usually one of our best attended seminars. So if you have any questions for either myself or for Brian, please don't hesitate to ask. We've got a sign-up sheet going around here. I wish if everybody would sign it, appreciate it. There's coffee and donuts over there. I'll put out some water later, and enjoy. Brian.
Thank you. So I'm Brian Brousseau from Dockside Electronics in Mystic. We do pretty much anything electronics on boats. I think this is probably the 5th or 6th year I've done this seminar here. This is the U.S. Power Squadron's Marine Radar Seminar. Some of the course information is getting a little bit on the older side as far as some of the slides that are in there, but really the core information really hasn't changed much at all, so it's still very relevant to radars today. The only thing that's really new, which I've added some other slides at the end, is Doppler radar and solid state radar, which is really the first thing to change in the recreational market really since radar came out and was available for recreational radars, so maybe since the 70s or something like that. So that's pretty exciting. And I've got some screenshots also I'll show you from, I did a side-by-side comparison a couple weeks ago on the Connecticut River between a solid state radar and basically the radar I have on the outside here running, and a traditional magnetron radar. So you can kind of see they're slightly different, and some areas one's a little bit better than the other, so it's kind of interesting to see that side by side. Feel free to interrupt me and ask questions as we go. I've got a live radar running outside here, and we'll be switching back and forth to that on the screen so you can see what some of the things they're talking about in the presentation are. So, anything before we start?
Excuse me, the radar you have, which one is that?
That's the Raymarine quantum radar.
But is that what you were just talking about, the different stock types?
This is a solid state radar.
Okay.
It's considered a 25 watt radar, which now in the industry is a little on the lower power side of things. A lot of the other competitors have come out with 40 watt radars and even 100 watt radars, which is a big deal. Now that compares to the old magnetron radars. You'd have a 2 kW, a 4 kW. Those are 4,000 watts versus 25 watts. But they're doing a lot of little tricks to get a lot more power, effective power, out of the solid state radar. And basically what it is the magnetron radar sends out a very narrow, short pulse of really high energy. The solid state radar is a much lower level, but it's a longer pulse. And because of the way that they send out the different frequencies in there, they can still get the resolution out of that longer pulse with the lower power. But yeah, it's about the same amount of effective power actually going out. What we're going to be going over are basics of radar, radar echoes, what the operator has available for controls, what you have for tools, and how to use this for collision avoidance and navigation. So the basics. What is the purpose of a radar, and how does it work? And when you're comparing different radars, we're going to be looking at like what's the well, I guess radar horizon's more the limitation to how it's mounted on the boat, and standalone versus integrated systems. So radar is a bird's eye view. It's like you're an aerial photograph. It's not like we're sitting here on the ground looking out. We're in an airplane above looking down. And the two things we can use this for are collision avoidance and for navigation. In today, we no longer have LORAN, so radar is our only backup to navigation if there's a problem with GPS. So there's no other system that can take the place of GPS except for radar on your boat today. So this is what you'd see on a typical traditional radar. This is an image of a Furuno radar. So a couple things we're looking at. This is the range of the radar. We're on the 3-mile range. There we go. So the little number next to that is how much the rings are. So we're here in the center. This is the first ring, ignore this one for now. This is the second ring and the third ring. So there's 3 1-mile rings giving us a range of 3 miles. So HU stands for heads up, which basically means what is up on the screen is in front of us. This line right here, this solid line, is what we call our heading line. That's what's directly in front of the boat. And when you first install a radar, you should make sure that the heading line is lined up to the front of the boat. And the way you do that is to get underway, point the boat directly at a known target. You know, something like sea flower is a great target around here. Big prominent, but there's nothing around it. And just make sure that when your boat's pointed directly at that, it shows up on that heading line.
And if it doesn't, what do you do to adjust it? Or can you?
You can. You can set it to anything. You could mount your radar backwards and line it up any way you wanted. It's in the installation settings, and it's called bearing alignment.
So theoretically, then, it should always line up when you point at something.
Yes.
That's how it's set up in the first place.
More than theoretically it should be. However, depending on installation and some little peculiarities when it's manufactured, it may be off a half a degree or a degree from just the way it was manufactured, and then you put it on your boat and you were off a degree or two, now you're off 2 or 3 degrees, so it can be cumulative.
But once you adjust for that, that
Yep.
should be set.
Correct.